Welcome to BlenderMeter for another exciting tutorial. This is festival time here in India. Just another 3 days time for Diwali, the festival of lights, and everybody in our office are pumped up and charged up to celebrate. Hope if you're from India, I hope you also have a fun-filled Diwali, but have a safe Diwali. Take proper precautions while dealing with crackers, bursting crackers. See that the kids are away from the crackers in a safe distance and have a fun-filled, safe Diwali. Okay, this tutorial mainly is simple a logo effect that I'm trying to create here. Nothing fancy or very complex. So what I'm trying to create here is something like this. So we have a text on a particular plane with some reflections and basic lighting, which is again enhanced through some basic compositing. So compositing is not very complex, it's a very basic compositing. The point I would stress here, or the focus of this particular tutorial, is to use one of the features of the materials, which I believe is has been not used to its fullest potential. And generally people try to ignore that particular option which is available in the materials, but if it is used properly, I think it could do wonders, and we could create a lovely effects inside of Blender. So the grid effect which you see on the floor is something like that, which I've used a particular option in the materials tab. So the focus mainly is on that. I hope some of you might be knowing about it already. So the other things are rather very simple. So with this particular grid appearing here just below the text and with the reflection of the text, it really enhances the scene and makes it look that much beautiful. So without wasting no more time, let's get into action. So I have plain scene here. So just I'm going to create a plane. Just so scale it. Just scale it so that it covers the grid, and coming into the front view, Control Alt Z brings my camera also to the front view, and with the camera selected, go into the fly mode. Shift F would take us into the fly mode, and just position the camera so that it covers the plane. Let me take a quick render and see how it is. Okay, it looks all fine. Maybe we can come back later and tweak if necessary. So next thing I'm going to do is select the plane, go into the edit mode and subdivide the plane. I need some segments to get that grid kind of a effect, so I'm going to subdivide this particular plane. So going into the tab mode, we have subdivide option here. Click on it and I'm going to subdivide it 15 times. It's up to you, you can stick on to any value, but a value between 10 and 15 would do good for this particular effect. Nothing more than that or nothing less than that. So somewhere between 12 or 15 would do good. So I'm going to stick with 15. So I have made a 15 segmented plane. So it's still in the edit mode. Just split the screen and go into the UV image editor, and I'm going to UV entrap this. So pressing 7 on my numpad will take me to the top ortho view. So with the top ortho view selected and all the vertex selected, press U and you get the UV mapping and wrapping menu options, and I'm going to choose project from view bounds. So it will just project it based on the view that I am in this case it's the top view, and it's going to give me an exact UV entrap of the mesh. All done. Close this window, press tab and come into the object mode. So now I'm going to apply a material to this. Go into the materials tab, add a new material. Let me call this grid plane, just for reference sake, so that we are able to identify the materials and the textures and other things. Naming convention is very important. I recommend everybody to follow a good correct naming convention to whatever work you're doing. Okay. So coming back to this, so this material can be applied in 4 different ways. As you can see, it can be applied as a surface, wire, volume, or a halo. And for this sake, I'm going to select this second option called wire, which basically makes it looks like a wireframe render. You take a quick render, and we see that now the plane looks much more different, like a grid. Okay, so this is one option. I believe it's not being used that much to its full potential and full effect. So I recommend you to try out different places and incidents and sequences where you can use this wire option of the materials. Okay, next, coming down to the options, diffuse. I'm going to change the color of the diffuse. So I need a basically kind of a blue color. So just 0.2077 for the red and 0.2144 for the green, and for the blue it is going to be 0.04445. so this is a value which I have ended up to, which gives me a nice this is 0.02077 and 0.021. I have missed the 0. Yeah, so, and this is 0.0445. so these are the values for the red, green and blue channels which I have ended up, and I get a kind of a nice dark blue grid, and other things we don't need the specular, so you can bring it all down to 0, and you can just have an emit value of 1, so that it just emits the color, and we get a brighter color when we go on to the compositing, and we can enhance this and play around with this. That's much to it for this plane. Okay, let's save it. I'm going to save it. Okay, it's a cool reflective text. Save it. Saving is very important. You need to save it. Okay, that's much it for this plane. Now what I'm going to do is go into the side view and just Shift D would duplicate this plane. Just Shift D and enter. Now this duplicated plane needs to be just a little bit below the first plane. So just move down like this. So it's just placed below the grid. And here you have all the materials also duplicated along with the plane. So click on this too, and this would make a separate material for this plane. So I would like to rename this as ground plane, and this would be a normal surface. I don't want this to be a wire, so that it gives us a base where the text could stand. Specular is 0. Okay, the color remains the same, and emit can be a little bit higher, so just give a value of 5 in the emit. Okay, just take a quick render, and we can see that we have this grid just placed on top of the plane, which is a basic surface and emit value. Okay, this particular plane is going to be a reflective plane which is going to reflect the text, so we need to add some reflections settings on this. So coming down to this option, click on this mirror option and open the options, and just for the sake, just follow the values I give here, but of course you can play around and experiment with other values. So the reflectivity would be 0.5, depth would be somewhere around 5, max distance can be 15, and it just fades to the sky so that it reflects the sky texture which you are going to add in just a moment. And the gloss amount need not be so much. If I remember, I think I give a value of 0.85. So these are the basic settings with which I am going to work, and maybe later on come back and tweak it. Okay, I think fancy we're not going to see any difference because there's nothing to be reflected on this plane. Okay, now let us change the background color, the world color. So go into the world settings, and I'm going to check all these 3 options so that I get a nice cool background. Okay, so the horizon color would be the same as what we gave for the plane, so I'm going to give the same value, 0.02077 for red and 0.02144 for blue and 0.04445. So this is a value I've given for the horizon color, and the zenith color and ambient color could be total black. So just take a quick render and we see we have a color which matches with the plane. Fine, going well till now. Haha. Happy man, things are working out the way I want. Good, keep it up. No, that's for myself, I used to tell that. Okay, so the next thing we need to do, save, is create the text. Okay, Shift A, text. Go to the tab. I'm going to type Blender Matter. Again, pressing tab. RX90 would rotate it by 90 degrees in the x-axis. Press 0 on the numpad. Go into the camera mode. Just place the text in the center so that, okay, just take a quick render and okay, we have a slight reflection happening there. We need to work on the lightings and other settings, so enhance it. Okay, fine, all's well that ends well. Okay, going into the side view, just maybe take it a little bit behind. Okay, it's all up to you, sir. You can place it anywhere you want. Okay, now going into the options of the text inside, I need a little bit of expression. As you can see, it's rather very plain and flat, and since we are working in a 3D environment, need to create some kind of a depth for the text so it looks more better. So extrude, I'm going to just extrude it a little bit, and that's all you need to do for the text. If you want, you can go ahead and apply materials and work on that, but for sake of the tutorial I'm not going to do anything about like that. Just leave it like that. The size could be anything you want based on your requirement. So if it's okay, so let me stick to a value of 1.5 for the size. Not too big. A very big text would not give you the kind of an effect which you are looking for in this particular case. So stick to a rather decent size of the text. Okay, so that's fine. Now the text looks much better. Okay, now coming into the lighting, we see that the default light is just right above and a little bit behind the text. We need to be pushing it in front of the text, so just push it in front of the text, bring it down. This is basically a point lamp, which is the default lamp which we have. Just push in it and see that it is in the center of the text, covers the whole text. Okay, and energy value, I'm going to bump it up to a very high value. Okay, it throws a lot of light over the text. You can remove the specular, you don't need the specular, it's up to you based on the font you're using for the text and things like that. If you need to have a specular highlight of the text, you can use the specular option with the light. Otherwise you can uncheck it. And the distance, just bring it down. Just take a, and now we see the text looks very bright and with the reflections nice, and the grid also adding on to the effect. So selecting the plane, I need to selecting the plane lying below, which doesn't have the wire surface, is the normal surface, which is with the reflection. Going into the mirror settings, there's something called samples here, and as we see, the reflection is very noisy, so we need to bump up the samples value. Maybe let me take it up with 500, gives me a more softer reflection. Takes quite some time to render as we keep on tweaking values and attributes. Just go to the render settings, okay, and just make sure you're on 50%. We don't need much more than that for the time being. In final render we can make changes in that, so that the render time is more faster and quick renders more quickly. Okay, samples, let's stick with 500 now, and maybe later on tweak it. Fine. So we have this light here. Okay, now I am going to add another light. So Shift A, lamp, and this time it's going to be a area light. And going into the side view. Okay, just this light would basically be behind the text, so it doesn't really contribute anything much to the scene as such, but it's going to just enhance something, which we'll just look into in a moment or so. So this is basically a area lamp which I've added. Then coming into the properties, just change it to rectangle, and I'm going to resize this particular area lamp so that it covers the full text from the front view. So just scale the X, maybe this would cover. You can even go into the top view and check it up. Now I'm going to side view, just rotate it. Okay, you can remove the specular from this. I don't need the specular highlight from this light also, and the energy would be also a little bit high. Distance is again based on, so as you change the distance, you see that the intensity of the light changes. So it's something that you keep in your mind while you're working on the distance. And for my sake, I'm going to just stick on to a value of 8 for the distance, and let me see what happens. Okay, now adding this area light, what this area light does is actually it gives a little bit of a highlight behind. So since we have the area light placed behind the text, you see that we have a small light effect here just behind the text, which does increase the overall effect of the scene or the output of the result. So this is what I am basically using this area light for. So you could just place it anywhere you want, and in whatever mode and whatever direction and things like that, based on whatever you are trying to create. But for this, I am just going to place it just right behind this text, and these are the values I am going to give it. Okay, just round it off to 13. Okay, so let's take a final render and see what happens. Okay, all things looking good, I think. Just what I want. Seem to be good. Reflection is also good, and okay. Now I need to put this text in a separate layer. So select this text M, just put it into the second layer. Okay, and the default lamp, the point lamp, I need this lamp in both the layers. So again press M, holding shift, click on the second layer, and it is there in the second layer also. And basically the other things would all be saved. Just save. Now coming into the render layers, I need to create separate render layers. Okay, so this is already the default render layer. Just let me rename this ground name, ground, and this would be containing all the objects in the first layer. Just deselect this sky and click on the Alt Z for this. I'm going to create a new layer and call it text, which will contain the text layer which is in the second layer. And basically it has no the changes made to the render settings. So we have basically two render layers. Fine. Now going into the composite mode, just take a need to render both the layers. Take a basic render and then go into the compositing node. I'm going to just basically add some few compositing nodes, nothing fancy or very complex, just to enhance the effect, the glow and things like that. Output, add a viewer node, so you get a basic effect like this. Need to put the camera also in both the, and now let's take a basic render. Something seems to be missing here, let me check. Okay, we have the render layer. This is for the ground plane. I'm just going to add a filter node. Just take it, plug it in. This I'm going to change to Laplace so that you have a nice glow. The factor would be 0.5. Just take it to the composite. So this is I have. Now Shift A and create another render layer. Change this to text. Now filter, blur, need to blur the text a little bit, and the best is the Fast Gaussian. So change it to Fast Gaussian and just give a little bit of glow, blur to it. Then add a glare node, plug it into this, and the glare will be for it. Just add a viewer node and you could see some effects of the text. Nothing much fancier. Now we need to combine these two render layers. So go to color, add a mix node, plug this into this and change this to screen. Add a viewer node, and connect this. So this is all we need to do in the compositing. Just adding a little bit of blur and glare. The blur is again optional. It looks much better even without the blur, so let me remove it. Control X would just delete it and maintain the connectivity so that the connections are not lost. So I just removed the blur node for you. It's up to you, you can use the blur node. So again, coming back, take a render and see what's happening. Give me a few minutes, it's just rendering out. The material with the wire option just takes a little bit, that much. And there we have a nice cool text with a little bit of glow and the reflection and the material which we added to the plane, setting it up as a grid, and is really, adding up to that effect and really enhancing the scene. Hope you would have enjoyed this tutorial. More you can do is camera animation and things like that. You can animate the camera, move it, around about the text and get different kinds of effects. Experiment, explore, find out a lot of possibilities. So it's basically the focus here again was on the wire material, which is just given a lot of enhancement to the scene and makes it look that much more effective and beautiful. Hope you would have enjoyed this tutorial. Okay, going back to enjoy Diwali. Let me meet you after that with another exciting tutorial. Thanks for watching.